Yo, what's up, guys? It's been way too long, 5 months to be exact. But I promise I haven't disappeared. Life has been hectic, work's been crazy, and I just haven't had the time to sit down to make these videos. But we are finally back with episode 4 of the Breakdown series. If you're new here, this is where I take you through my design process, step by step, showing you how I create some of the best sport graphics out there. Before we jump in, I just want to let you guys know that my Patreon is live. If you want access to all my best PSDs at super affordable prices, this is the place to be. There are 3 membership tiers: the bronze tier, which goes for $5, the silver tier $8, and the championship tier for $15 a month. If you're looking to step up your designs or save time on your own project, check it out. The link is in the description. Welcome back, guys. This is episode 4 of the Breakdown series. So for today's series, we are going to be doing the Matchday poster I made for the Chelsea vs Fulham game. This poster is quite simple, but it just contains a lot of layers. Let's get right into it. So the first thing is that I always start with is trying to analyze my background. Chelsea stadium background that I used. So I basically put it there and I apply my camera raw to just make the sky a bit blue. Then from there, I basically made it a bit dark and just brighter from the top from the source of light. Then from there, I just added some light flares in the background to give it more source of light for me to paint lightning. So from there, I add a little bit of glow to the light. Then I just made the pitch more darker. Then from there, what I did was I replaced the pitch. So this was the first pitch. I replaced it with a new one. So if I enable the layer mask, this is a new pitch. And I also made it darker to match it. And just a little bit more dark spot on it down. The reason why I'm making it dark is because there's a light source falling on it, meaning it will allow me to paint my highlight a bit more better. Then I bring the main thing, which is the game day text. So for this text, I used a font called Dama Gothic E. Right? If you want this text, you can just comment it in the comment section, and I will get a text for you. Then what I did was I added exposure. So let me show you how I did this exposure. I just went to exposure, clip this to the text, and I reduced. So I need to clip it, and I reduced the exposure to make it dark. Then I inverted it. Then I basically made my brush bigger, and with white selected, I just paint down here. So it gives you that gradient effect, right? So basically that's what I did here. So I need to clip this, right? That's what I did here to give it that gradient effect that I have there. Then from there, I brought in smoke, right? I used blue smoke because it was Chelsea. And what I normally like to do is I also like to add element from the city. So since it was London and it was a London derby, I got this really cool historical London building from Embato Elements. So this is how it looks at the beginning. Really cool, high quality photo. And I basically cut it out and used this. Then for the first player, I was Sanchez, right? I used a big photo of Sanchez screaming just for some emotions, and I added a gradient map to make sure the skin is basically one color and not like different patches. And my normal retouching, I have a video about retouching which I will put there, and in the next few weeks I will make another one on retouching because I feel I've improved since the last one. So curves, brightness, then exposure, then channels. Then basically I started adding the highlights. So the light is coming from the right, so all the highlights are from the right, like you can see here. And this is also basically adding blue highlight because of the smoke coming from the down here. So this is done with Sanchez, and the next player I added was Cole Palmer. right? So this is the Cole Palmer one. It was, I think this was when he scored the hat trick, and no, I think yeah, the hat trick versus Tottenham, and he was doing the Kawa celebration. So the same thing, gradient to make the skin color uniform, and hue and saturation for the white part, selective colors, then curves for the bends, highlight with brightness, exposure, and also a little bit of exposure for the dark spot. And I made it white to paint basically the highlight. So yes, for the highlight, you can see that I did one, which is the blue, right, from the right, because we have the blue smoke coming up, and we have another set of highlight, which is on the face, because we have another sort of light from here shining on the face. Then for the next one, we basically have another one, which is yellow, because of this yellow light coming from here, which is also the highlight. And basically there's the Kopama one. And the last player was Christopher Nkunku. Right, so Christopher Nkunku, this was a really nice photo of Nkunku, right? The backstory is that I didn't plan on adding Nkunku, but like I saw this photo and I was like, I really need to add this. So this is a photo of Nkunku. I cut it out, really nice. And as usual, right, what we do, so the exposure, I reduce the exposure because I'm going to paint highlight on it. The brightness, so this is brightness lowered for from the dark part, brightness for the bright part, normal retouching, and the shadows, and I did a gradient for the colors to make it uniform, hue and saturation for the white, selective colors, and now we paint the highlight. So the first highlight is the white one, which is coming from the right, which is this source of light, and the next one is going to be the blue one, which is coming from down here, right? And that's basically, then the shadow is basically Nkunku. And what I did is I did a part blur down here to give it that motion effect. So let me show you how I did this part blur. I basically duplicated it, right? Let me convert the smart object. I went to filter, blur gallery, and part blur. So what I do is I basically make one point, do this, make several points, right? Then just play around with it, like go crazy. It's basically up to you. Then you can increase the speed, right? It depends on like the velocity you want. Then once you're done, you click OK, and you can see the effect it has there, right? And this is the one I use. They're basically quite similar. Then there's the Nkunku one, and this is the final arrangement. But before I do anything else, before I finish, I like to add more light just to make it pop. So right, so if I turn on the lights, so I have one more light, because there's one thing about light. If a light is brighter on something, it will appear in front of it. It will have that effect in front of it. So we have added a bit more light to the players, right, just to give it that effect. Then the last one is the details. You can't have a matchday poster without the match details. So this is basically the logos, right? The logos of the teams. So I basically had to cut it out. So I already had this cut out of the Chelsea logo, but I had to cut this out, right? So I basically cut it out and I made it white, and I basically did an outer glow. Then the text. The text I used was, I think this was the same text I used for the game day. Then the Stamford Bridge and the Premier League logo. So that was basically the match details. And the final thing I added was a ball. You can see Nkunku is kicking, but where's the ball? So to make it a bit more realistic, I had this ball, which I applied a part blur to it, just to give it that motion to it, and basically made it dark, and I gave it the exposure, so more of like highlight from these lights shining on it, right? And I basically added shadows around the edge. And for my final retouch, you see the difference before and after. what I like to do is I like to basically do my final camera raw. So let me go into my camera raw, and this is it. I don't really do anything super. You can see just subtle changes. This is my settings. Just subtle changes. The most important one is the hue. I basically make the blue tone like lighter blue, and that's basically my changes. Nothing really deep. Increase the orange and the yellows just to make the skin tones pop, and just a little color grading, like nothing deep. And so this is just my settings. You can slow it down and like basically have a look if you want to apply it. Then I basically let me turn all these off and take it through one at a time. So this is my camera raw, and I do the glitch effect. If I zoom in, on, off, the glitch effect. I've shown this in my previous video before, but I can repeat it again. So to have the glitch effect, you basically duplicate the layer you want to have the effect on. You double click, and you have the channels: red, green, blue. So if I turn off the blue, you can see it gives me yellow, right? Red and green will give me yellow channels. If I turn this on, you get only red. If I turn blue on, red and blue gives you purple, and the violet or purple. So now once I move it to the left, you can see the glitch effect, right? So before, after. If I move it up, you see the effect a bit more. So it's a really nice effect. Once you're done with your poster, it just gives it a little bit like more pop. Like you wouldn't know if you don't zoom in, but it makes a whole lot of difference. And the next one is I add color lookouts. You can explore color lookouts, but it depends on the poster. It worked really well. And just a little bit of texture. So this texture, right? And I added a last texture. This is more of like a print. It's like a print book kind of texture. And I added a border around it. I think the border has become kind of an iconic finishing touch I always add to my posters, but it's really nice. It makes it not too clean, but like just gives it that kind of vibe to it. And I added like a few brightness to the bypass just to make it pop more. So you can see to the eyes and to like the bright parts, and hue and saturation because I thought the colors were popping too much, right? And just my logos, just adding my logos to it, right? So it's just quite simple, right? This is how I made this marketing poster. And I think the hard part was basically coming up with a concept, but once you have a concept, it was quite easy, right? So you can find this PSD on my Patreon. I'll put a link in my description, and you can find it there, and just enjoy. And don't forget to like and subscribe. And if you have any question, just drop in the comment section, and I will try my best to answer it all. Yeah, cheers.